For this video, we're talking about initiators. Initiators are things you can do before you run up and start hitting someone, right? Like you can follow behind it, something on top of it. It allows you to get in without really committing to anything. If your opponent doesn't avoid it, then they're going to get hit in the face by it, they'll take a little bit of damage, and if they do avoid it, then you try to roll catch them, and basically it allows you to have a whole lot of advantage. So first, melee weapons, right? Melee weapons kinda can't do initiators. They're forced to, be your main source of combat. They don't exactly have anything that you can throw out and just have, like, floating towards your opponent while you swing at them, because that kind of defeats the point of the weapon. And this is definitely not true because of Ashes of War. We're talking first about just the weapon itself. None of the weapons have, like, additional effects that allow you to follow behind them. Like, you can say the frozen needle, like things that shoot a projectile do, the Smith script daggers, but that's not an initiator because it forces you to perform the animation, and then it locks you in the animation. So those don't work as initiators. So the best thing you could really do is spacing, in which, let's see, what did I write here? The closest thing melee can do is understand their running and jumping attacks, specifically the maximum range. This is known as spacing, and it can only really be learned by experience. So, eventually you're gonna find out what the range of your weapon is, right? So see, we can't hit this from here. We can from here. So that's spacing. And typically you'd want to do it with your jumping attack. Not your jumping heavy, though your jumping heavy is a good one. So see, we can get much farther with the jumping attack. But not really, like, consistently. Like, you have to delay it. So you need to understand that. You need to understand this is spacing. The maximum range before you can hit someone. And then, you need to do it properly. So, you need to know your full moveset. You need to know the length of your weapon. And you can do that with any real weapon at all. See? And you just learn it by doing it over and over again. There's not really any other way to do it. And you can do this with any weapon. It's kind of one of the most important parts of gameplay. Is to be able to hit your opponent from as far away as possible, you know? To know that, oh, it's a little bit too far away. And the thing is, once you start doing spacing, and your opponent knows that you're gonna do that, like, say we're within range right here, right? They backed away. It missed. Now they hit you. So, that's spacing. That's neutral. That's a fighting game thing. You shouldn't try to bring in fighting game stuff, but the fact remains you can still translate other video games, like skills that you've learned, into video games you play, you know? And you can do that with any weapon. It's a bit harder with things like Colossals, because Colossals are a little bit slower, but they still go super far. You know, the moveset is really good. It's a very strong weapon. The opponent's using one because of this. Wait, this is a Colossal. I guess we can't armor that. Because of that. Yeah, because hyper armor. To show that off. Next, we have Ashes of War. There's not a lot of Ashes of War that you can move from one weapon to another, the ones that can apply to weapons. There's not a whole lot of these that count as initiators, because most of them, they have a utility to them. They just do a lot of damage, usually, I would say. But some of them have utility. They have, like, dodge, projectiles, flurry of attacks, usually, or big swings. Most of them, they're not really meant as initiators. They're meant as, like, big, fancy attacks. So, there are a couple. So Phantom Slash is probably the least, like, capable initiator, because you have to do it in a specific way. You can send out the Spectre, and then you can not commit to the attack. I don't know if you can confirm that it will hit them, but you can throw this out and then angle yourself away. And the idea is, if you can confirm that it will hit them before you angle yourself away, then it would very much count as an initiator. But that seems to be very difficult, but it is technically an option. It is technically an initiator. So next up, very easy, Glintblade Phalanx. One of the best initiators that has always existed in the form of the soul masses, the reason being you can just sneak up to your opponent with your back turn, fire one of them if you're good, if you know how it works, right? And you can follow behind that. You can even do it this way, where you get behind them, hold on. You use it, and like, they're walking up behind you, right? So you're getting ready for that. You charge up and attack, you turn around, and it combos because of the Phalanx. So, the Soulmass things are definitely initiators. This wasn't next, but we also have Ghostflame Call. The reason Ghostflame Call is technically an initiator is because of this. And you can follow behind it, and it still causes ticks. Wow, that is not a lot of build-up. Okay, so the main sword one is definitely the better version of that, I would say. People have been telling me that. The Death's Poker is definitely better at it. I don't have the dexterity, but it remains the same idea. Does the exact same thing, the difference is it's better. You can even choose to not commit to it. If you stab someone with it directly, it'll tick on them. And then it has the mix-up with the explosion. So you can definitely run behind that. Then we have Golden Land. We need the stats for it. Okay, so we have Golden Land. This is technically more of an AoE, but because of these projectiles, you can definitely run behind it. So that makes it a decent initiator. It is still better to use it as a direct hit because of the explosion. We're not really... This is unupgraded and all, that's not going to do a whole lot of damage, but yes, it's better that way. So, now, there's unique weapons. Lots of unique weapons. At least, there's more of them. We showed off the Death's Poker, which is on here. I want to see if the Sacred Relic Sword can technically work as initiator. I got it mixed up. We need way more dexterity and faith for this. There we go. Okay. The Waves of Gold. You've seen it before, I'm sure. It throws out this giant wave. Can you follow behind it? Looks like you can. Interesting, it didn't cause knockdown. How much poise do I have? It shouldn't be a whole lot, that's interesting. At 42. Huh. Maybe it's the upgrade. Poise damage increased with the upgrade? No way. So it looks like you can technically run behind that, but it's not... Like, you can't do something on top of it, really. Unless you're also using a projectile, because it travels too quickly. But the fact remains, it still works. as an initiator, because you can run behind it. And it's this giant wall of damage, so I'd say that counts. Moonrithill's Night Sword. Purely because it has the tremendous phalanx. You know, this thing. What you do is you do, and then all of it hits, and you're good, you know. So that's an initiator, for sure. The issue is, you have to turn away, or it doesn't really work. They'll fire too early. If you're locked on, it's not gonna work so well. You have to turn away, you have to unlock. But yes, that's an initiator. Next we have the Wing of Astel. We do not have enough intelligence for that. I can fix that. So, Nebula. Nebula is definitely an initiator, because you can do this, and you can follow behind it. So yes, that definitely works. It also spreads out, and you can run away. It's also a D initiator. D initiator. It keeps people away from you, as well as allows you to get close to them. So, technically, this isn't a very good one, but the Envoy's Horn is an initiator, because you can blow out the bubble, and then you can run behind it. It's not extremely powerful, but it definitely counts. And we got the Family Heads. The Family Heads use Rancor, which you can definitely run behind. So that counts as an initiator. Again, it's not a very good one. We got the Astel Flail. Okay. Need more int. Okay. Guess we're putting this on. Oh, we could just put this on. And it has Nebula. It's a little bit harder to run behind this one because you're stuck in the animation for longer, but it still works. So, one of the best flails in the game, I would say. The other one being the Serpent Flail. And you can force the Chain Link Flail to work, but not so much the other ones. Knight Rider Flail or the... But that's just talking about flails. So we have the Watchdog Staff. This one's actually really interesting because it's a colossal weapon. But it has this Ash of War that you can just run behind. It travels a little fast, but the fact remains, it has really good tracking. And it fires out a lot of these. So yeah. You can definitely use that as an initiator. Especially if you stack other stuff on top of that. Now, this is a pretty normal choice for a lot of people, I would think. The Vyke warspear. So I see a lot of people trying to use this because it has madness on it, I assume, and it's like a great spear, so it has a bit of hyper armor. Great spears are kind of really plain. Like, yes, they have good running attack. Running R1 anyway. The running R2 is not good, unless you know someone's close to getting frenzied. Which, if you know that, then I guess go for it. You can still avoid it pretty easily. Like, let me show you. Like, say someone's running at you like this. Okay, it's difficult to pick this up. 2 controllers is still hard, okay? So someone's running at you. If it guard breaks you, or not guard break, if it poise breaks you, then yes. But you're just supposed to get hit by the first 2 and then roll away. If you're too close, there's not a whole lot you can do about the first 2 swings. But the idea is you roll towards them and then you avoid the thing. But yes, most people don't have madness boluses like I do. So they're gonna get madness, you're gonna get your combo going, and then don't worry about it. But we're talking about initiators. So what you want to do, throw out the L2. There's this giant splash on the ground now, and you can follow around while it's just kind of there. So anything that causes like a splash on the ground is technically an initiator. Now, I wouldn't say you want to do this at close range, because what's going to happen is someone's going to roll behind you and punish you for it. And if you do it from a far range, this is what I'm going to do to you. Unless the explosion hits me. Which happens a lot lately. Which is really interesting. I'm going to jumping heavy you, that's the idea. So next we have Consumables. Much easier to use these on any character you want. Of course we have Sleep Pots. Sleep Pots create a big field of sleep. Follow up, walk right into it. Doesn't last too long. But if it puts someone to sleep, you get to do whatever you want. You can hit them with a fully charged heavy attack if you're ready for it. And you can hit them twice, actually, if you put them to sleep. Volcano Pots, same idea. Big zone of damage happening. Follow up behind that. Doesn't exactly stun them or anything, but some people are afraid of it. Rancor Pots, these float towards an enemy. They're not very good. You have to be locked on. They work best from super far away. And even then, they're not all that fast and they don't hit all that hard. Glintstone Scraps. Actually, really, really effective. I recommend using these. See how far away we can get. So if you're locked on, you can hit with this. It goes as far as Loretta's Great Bow. Same thing for large Glintstone Scraps. Now you can't exactly follow behind these. Okay, I think I unlocked when they fired. Yeah, you can follow behind this, because they're still shooting. Also, same thing for Cuckoo Glintstone, but they're a lot slower. They take longer to throw. They do a small bit less damage. I don't know about Glinting Nail yet. I wanted to test it. Let's see. How far does it go? Last very long. That's not what I wanted, but okay. It'll work. Glinting Nail, I think you can follow behind this? No, it's a little fast. And it doesn't go all that far. Not really. But still. The Gravity Stone fans are a personal favorite. They're a bit expensive at like 13 FP. Not really. Not really. Thought there were more than that. But you throw this down, jump in. Like, say you backstab someone. Right? Backstab them. They're getting up. You throw down this. And then they stop to heal and they get hit. So you're chasing behind it, right? They get hit, you heavy them, and they just... It's a true combo. It's amazing. It hits it will hit each of those spikes. But it will only hit once. So the idea is there's 3 hits to it, and they have to keep trying to get away from you. And if they don't know that, they get hit while they're trying to heal, you jumping heavy them, and it hurts a whole lot. Really nice. So the stone chunks work the same way, but they're much slower, and they only hit once, and they're not all that great. You could throw it where someone's gonna be, right? And you can follow up behind it, pressure them. But by itself, it's not all that great, which is why it only costs 5 FP. I still think they're neat, but they're not all that effective. So then we also have a new tool, the Spritestone. These things are fun. They float around for a very long time. Or unless they bump into something. Not a person, though. Like a solid wall. See, it floats around for a while. And you can force it to blow up, right? And it does a decent amount of damage. And it causes knockdown. They're pretty cool, but unless you're using the bond stone with them, you can't control them that well. Unless you cast it into a wall. And even then it takes a while. Okay. Innard meat. Actually pretty interesting. You throw this, it works like the ones that they throw at you. You run in behind it and do something. It's a little faster than I thought it was, but it's still an option. The Call of Tibia. This summons a spooky skeleton. Skeleton hits them, and you can follow behind it. Pretty cool. This one's one of my favorites for this build. The Wraith Calling Bell. You do this, and then you do that. You follow up behind it, and then you can blast them later. Like, oh, am I just gonna hit you with the bell? The bell's not gonna do all that much damage, but if I reflect it, it'll hurt real bad. The Horned Bairn. Actually, pretty good. Thought that they were gonna kill the test dummy for a second there. Works exactly the same way as the phalanx does. You can fire off a couple of them, and you can run in behind them. They don't do a lot of damage. Well, they kind of do, but if you have the stats for it. They do a decent bit of stun, and they're more likely to actually hit stuff than the other bairns, because they have a bit of tracking to them. I don't know if they're holy damage. We could actually test that, but we're not going to. So yeah, that's Consumables. Next, we have Sorceries, Incantations. So for Sorceries, we have a very good one, Shard Spiral. You can move around while Shard Spiral is happening. It's very effective. Stars of Ruin is actually on here. You can move around while it happens. It's not amazing because it doesn't have hit stun, but it's still like you cast it, and then you can move around. It hits people. It's not amazing. Glintstone Arc, one of my favorites. It's not really an initiator because it travels a little bit too fast. But you can still follow behind it. And as a mage, you can do other attacks with it. But I wouldn't really call it an initiator. I might just cut that one out. Magic Glintblade. Really easy to get. Walk right up to someone, smack them, and then it combos, you know? That's an initiator. I want to see about Magic Downpour. Okay, but first we got the Glintblade Trio. Yes, it works exactly the same way. Magic Downpour? No, not yet. Carian Phalanx. Of course this one works. Again, you just kind of do that. It works. Okay, this is Magic Downpour. You can move around with it, and it hits people, but it doesn't do a lot of damage, and it doesn't really have any tracking. Doesn't really have any tracking. It kind of sucks, but it's funny. Now, the moon spells. If you have fast cast speed, you can actually run behind them. I don't know if it requires max cast speed or fast cast speed. Night Maiden's Mist, of course, you throw it out, and then you have to kind of aggress people into walking into it. You just gotta be careful because it'll hurt you too. And it runs out eventually, of course. Causes hits on ladders. Very good. I'm wondering about the Magma Sorcery. Because, like, it sends lava on the ground. It stays for a good while. How much does that even do? It's an okay amount. Not amazing. Now, a better sorcery would be Roiling Magma. Fully charged makes it so it blows up way higher. And then there's lava, too. So yeah, that's a really good one if you don't have, like, Giant's Flame take the... You want to be like a sorcerer. The problem is it still requires faith to use, but it only takes one slot, and it has a different purpose. It also works on walls. The lava won't spawn on the wall, but the explosion will happen on the wall. It's actually pretty cool. Now, getting someone to walk into it or stick around next to it is going to be a bit difficult, but the fact remains, it actually does a lot of damage with the explosion. Like, check it out. It's underrated. Boom, half my health. Oof. You got 2,000 health, by the way. So yeah, that hurts. We got more sorceries to come, but first we have to do the incantations. So, aspects of the Crucible Bloom. You can definitely follow up behind this. It kinda doesn't do all that much. Unless the target is literally standing still. Land of Shadow got a buff. It now has a little bit more tracking. At least it says it does. You can definitely follow up behind it. But it's still not all that great, I would say. The interesting part of it would be that the initial cast also causes an explosion. So it's kind of like a reverse Elden Stars in that sense. But Elden Stars costs more spell slots to use. More... lots of things. It doesn't do quite as much damage, but it's more consistent. Because, like, you cast out Elden Stars, and your opponent just has to deal with it for a while. And then, if they just ignore it, it blows up on the ground and does a decent amount of damage. Got Discus of Light, which requires a bit of intelligence to use. So Discus of Light, you throw it out, and then you can change where it will come back from. It's very, very cheap. You can free aim it, get multiple of them on the area. Throw it behind them, it'll go past their shield. Let me demonstrate. Say someone is blocking. The first hit, they block. The second hit, they do not. Okay, that did the same amount of damage both times. The first hit, they block. The second hit goes behind them. Okay, it doesn't work that way. Never mind. Now we know. It counts as blocking it, even if it hits you from behind. That sucks. We need more intelligence. So triple rings of light, same idea. But in a much larger radius. And you can kind of get all of them to hit together by aiming them at the ground. Really good, actually. I wanted to try out multi-layered ring of light. You can, like, throw it at the ground fully charged, and it'll stay around for a while longer. No, not really, apparently. Let's see. It still works. Especially if you actually hit someone with it. You can follow behind that. But it's not really going to work quite as well as other options. Put this back on. So, Flame of the Fell God is one of my favorite incantations right now. Especially for initiating. Because you can just kind of throw this out, and it's just a constant threat, right? Like, your opponent has to deal with this, and then it blows up, and then there's still this fire that will stun them. So you can just stand in that fire, get your buffs going, and, like, if they rush you down, they get stunned by the fire. It's very nice. And of course we have Fire Serpent. You can run in behind Fire Serpent. Then we have Rykard's Rancor. Of course you can follow behind Rykard's Rancor. Kinda just causes explosions everywhere. They're not really, you know, effective, I would say. Especially since this thing will just, like, run into a wall or the ground and just despawn entirely, but it's still an option. Rykard's Rancor. Proper use of gravitational missile. You can definitely follow behind this. Not a whole lot the opponent can do about it either. Glintstone Nail. Ooh, it desyncs. Weird. Okay, you can follow behind that. Not super well, but you can still follow behind it. Of course, you could do it with the other ones as well. Fleeting Microcosm. Of course, you can follow behind this, but, you know, it really just stays in the area it's in, so you'd want to use it in a more enclosed area. The Oracular bubbles. They don't do a whole lot, but they can. They're very funny. And of course you can follow behind the Great Oracular bubble. It has a decent amount of tracking. Not amazing though, as you can see. It does kind of hang out for a while though. You can use that to your advantage. And then we, of course, there is Rancor Call, which you can follow behind. There's also Ancient Death Rancor, which is much harder to deal with, I would say. Rings of Spectral Light. I think you can follow behind that, but they're not amazing, I would say. They're not absolutely awesome. Which is just because it's like one cast, all of them hit, and even then it only built up as much as like a cold infused weapon would. Like, check this out. And that's about the same amount. Ah yes. Explosive Ghostflame. So it causes these streaks everywhere, right? And they cause a lot of frost. It's actually really dangerous. You can't really use it, like, safely. It works the same way as Vyke's does, but it works from much farther away. It covers a much larger area. And we also have Massive Putrescence. And because it causes that splash, you can actually follow behind that. Then we have Swarm of Flies. Really easy to follow behind. Mac. Causes blood loss. Very strong, very effective at causing blood loss. Actually, how fast was that? I want to see real quick. Yeah, that's pretty good. On this character who has a bit of arcane. Okay, so Watchful Spirit. You can technically follow behind this, because, you know, it's following you, really. It adds to your pressure. Not absolutely amazing, but it still does what it does. Blood Boon. You free aim this on the ground. It causes a dot. If someone's blocking it, it really builds up that bleed. A new favorite of mine, the Giant Golden Arc. If you're locked on, it will actually track the target. And if you're not, it's still this huge projectile. And it looks like that's it for sorceries and incantations. That's it for the whole video then. Okay, well, for initiators, you want to use these to start with. You want to cast or throw or use your Ash of War before you do anything else, so that you can follow up behind it with something. I know that lately I have been using Giant Golden Arc, running behind it, and then seeing what the opponent does, and then, you know, hit them. That's the whole point. And sometimes I like to do spell combos. So you do like Golden Arc, Glintstone Nail, or maybe Swarm of Flies, using multiple things, pull them into it. Pull them out of it in that case. So yeah. You throw them out, and then you start doing your melee stuff, and it makes it a lot easier to force your opponent to do something that they shouldn't be doing in response to your melee attack.